Good morning. My name is Tony Ideally. These are my partners, Ariel and Nadia. We had natural sciences with a specification on psychopathy. So our main problem is how to treat psychopathy. Basically, there's no found cure for psychopathy. So far, there's been experiments, multiple researchers, but basically they have not found a specific issue leading to psychopathy. And psychopathy is linked to various physical illnesses, meaning the elimination of psychopathy or the cure or treatment would greatly aid in helping physical illness, and also it would help in making the world just a safer place because many serial murderers, the biggest killers such as like Hitler, Jim Jones, different people like terrorists, ISIS are always linked to psychopaths. So just eliminating psychopathy and getting rid of it, would end at the source of terror. So some background info, an estimated 42.5 million Americans have mental illness, and this ranges from more serious ones to ones that are treatable, like depression and bipolar disorder, all the way to psychopathy, like I said before, which has no cure so far. There's a link with mental illness and physical illness. So about 14% of physical illnesses are directly linked with mental illness. This number is actually higher, but because we know that a lot of people don't like to go to the doctor, or people don't like to be diagnosed with mental illness because of cultural beliefs, the number is actually higher, but that's just like the found number so far. And like I said, psychopathy has no cure. So some past studies on psychopathy would be by Crockett. He injected serotonin into patients of psychopathy. Serotonin is a chemical found in the brain. Usually in depression patients, they have lesser or a less level of serotonin, which causes them to be depressed. So they just take serotonin injections through tablets most times to better equal their imbalance, and that usually helps affect mood, behavior, and diet. But in psychopathic patients, it did absolutely nothing because there is no imbalance, and that was one discovery by it, but that did not lead to the actual cause of psychopathy. Hassler also did a study, and he injected methylperothioneine into patients. This is supposed to affect stress and adrenaline by messing with endorphins and norepinephrines in the body, but it did absolutely nothing in psychopathic patients again because it doesn't have any link to those hormones in the body. So that was another development, but like the last one, it didn't really show what was the actual cause of psychopathy in patients.
So for the significance of the study that we're trying to propose here is that, of course, mental disorders lead to risk in other diseases. So it would just only make sense to want to find a cure for it. For our question, we said that is psychopathy treatable? And for our hypothesis for that is if psychopathy is treatable, then disease linked to mental illnesses will decrease percentages and the general population will be safer. So for our actual experiment that we would conduct, before we did it, we would conduct pre-screenings on our subjects. And what I mean by pre-screenings is that we would check their family history for any type of other disorders that they may have from past families or other mental disorders that could possibly tamper with our results. We would also want to have different kinds of people, so therefore people who would be maybe allegedly accused of psychopathic crimes or actually in jail for those crimes, or also people who have never been accused of these crimes. Once we figure out who our subjects are, we would conduct our experiment by placing them in a room faced towards a screen while they were hooked up to an MRI of some sorts that would give images of their amygdala in their brain. This is where our emotions are held. So when we would project scenes of gruesome images or any type of horrific scene that most people would find scary or just not pleasing, they would send messages to the amygdala, and in those sections we would send a small shock to these specific areas in hopes that it would improve or maybe even cure their psychopathic ways.
So what we would want is for the researchers to be responsible in keeping in mind that we are having human subjects and that we want to keep a humane way of testing them. So for the development report, we would want a utilitarian approach because we want to maximize benefit with minimize harm. We want to make sure that we're preserving human life and that we are not trying to endanger any psychopathic subjects or any regular subjects, and that everybody is still within their rights. So we'd want to do the rights approach and make sure that everybody understands that even though they are being tested in our human subjects, that they still have certain rights and still have a say in like their type of experiment, whether they still want to be experimented or not. And if an experiment is to go far past to what a subject would want, that the subject would stop, the experiment would stop immediately, and that the subjects would be compensated in any type of way if any more mental harm was caused to them by their experiment, that they'd be compensated in any type of therapy that would help, or if any physical harm would be presented, that we would take care of them in that sort of way. And we want to make sure that consent, since these are considered mentally disabled people, we want to make sure that consent, whether provided by them or someone with a right to give consent for that person, is making sure that we are conducting that in a proper way. The impact of this research could lead to new discoveries about the brain. We want to be able to show that when looking at the amygdala and other parts of the brain, we could also see if anything else is causing this, or if new studies on the brain could help possibly with this. And then we want to understand psychopathy, because we've seen that there is a link between this and also diseases. So if we can find that link, then we could also try to figure out how to decrease the amount of diseases that are spreading. And also, this could benefit the individual because it would cause less medication due to psychopathy, because most psychopathics do have to take a lot of medication. And then also less self-inflicting harm to them or to others.